guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going over the first book haul of the year. My favorite thing in the world to do is buy books, so I can't wait to show you guys everything that I bought. If you like to hear it, here it go. Okay, so I bought 12 books, which is not terribly bad, and these are in no particular order. I'm just going to go through. I have some in my lap and then the rest are sitting on the bed right there. So no particular order. I'm just going to go through them. So first we have The Long Song by Andrea Levy. There we go. Nice focus. So this says, in her follow-up to Small Island, winner of the Whitbread Book of the Year Award and the Orange Prize for Fiction, Andrea Levy once again reinvents the historical novel, told in the irresistible, willful, and intimate voice of Miss Julie, with some editorial assistance from her son Thomas. The Long Song is at once defiant, funny, and shocking. The child of a field slave on the Amity sugar plantation in Jamaica, Julie lives with her mother until Mrs. Caroline, a recently transplanted English widow, decides to move her into the great house and rename her Marguerite. Together they live through the bloody Baptist War and the violent and chaotic end of slavery. An extraordinary, powerful story, The Long Song leaves its reader with a newly burnished appreciation for life, love, and the pursuit of both. So, sounds interesting. Whenever I finish reading a story about slavery, I want to pick up another one. So, I got that after I finished reading A Book of Night Women. So next we have Yellow Crocus by Layla Ibrahim. So this was actually a recommendation by one of you guys. Someone watched my review of The Yellow Wife, I believe, and asked me could I read and review this. So I plan to do a reading vlog for this eventually. So it says, moments after Lisbeth is born, she's taken from her mother and handed over to an enslaved wet nurse, Maddie, a young mother separated from her own infant son in order to care for her tiny charge. Thus begins an intense relationship that will shape both of their lives for decades to come. Though Lisbeth leads a life of privilege, she finds nothing but loneliness in the company of her overwhelmed mother and her distant slave-owning father. As she grows older, Maddie becomes more like family to Lisbeth than her own kin, and the girl's visits to the slave quarters and the lively and loving community that she finds there bring the two closer together than ever. But can two women in such disparate, I can never say that word correctly, circumstances form a bond like theirs without consequence? This deeply moving tale of unlikely love traces the journey of those very different women as each searches for freedom and dignity. Sounds interesting. I said that I would read it. I love when y'all recommend books to me, so most of the time I get them as long as I read the synopsis and like them. Okay, this one is this is a far fetch for me. So it is called Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson, and it is the telling of a story that I did not actually like reading the original. A lyrical and dreamy reimagining of Dracula's Bride, A Diary of Blood, is a story of desire, obsession, and emancipation. Saved from the brink of death by a mysterious stranger, Constanta is transformed from a medieval peasant into a bride fit for an undying king. But when Dracula draws a cunning aristocrat and starving artist into his web of passion and deceit, Constanta realizes that her beloved is capable of terrible things. Finding comfort in the arms of her rival consort, she begins to unravel their husband's dark secrets. With the lives of everyone she loves on the line, Constanta will have to choose between her own freedom and her love for her husband, but bonds forged by blood can only be broken by death. I've heard good things about this. I've heard that there's good smut in here too, so I'm curious to read it. I watched a video, I don't even remember who. I did not like reading Dracula, so maybe a retelling of it will be better. And if I can find the page where I got that book rec from. I'll put the link to her story in the underneath the bar. This next one, I think this might be YA. I think it gives me YA vibes. Why don't you say what kind of book this is? Why don't you say it here on the page? I know it's definitely fantasy though. Whatever. So this is called David Mogo Godhunter, I believe is the name of this book. I think. The back says, Legos will not be destroyed. The gods have fallen to earth in their thousands and chaos reigns. Though broken and leaderless, the city endures. David Mogo, demigod and Godhunter, has one task: capture two of the most powerful gods in the city and deliver them to the wizard gangster Lukman Ajala. No problem, right? And then it says a riveting debut. It sounds interesting. It's a fantasy. I want to read more fantasy this year. And it doesn't seem like that's in a series, which is even better for me. Okay, next. This was also something recommended by one of my followers. I think they told me on Instagram. So A Taste of Gender by Monty Shah. So it says, after her parents moved her and her brother to America, Pretty Desai never meant to tear her family apart. All she did was fall in love with a white Christian carnivore instead of a conventional Indian boy. Years later, with her parents not speaking to her and her controversial relationship in tatters, all Pretty has left is her career at a prestigious Los Angeles law firm. But when Pretty receives word of a terrible accident in the city where she was born, she returns to India, where she'll have to face her estranged parents and the complicated past they left behind. Surrounded by the sights and sounds of her heritage, Pretty catches a startling glimpse of her family's battles with class, tradition, and sacrifice. Torn between two beautifully flawed cultures, Pretty must now untangle what home truly means for her. This sounds like it's going to be really interesting. I don't think I've read many books that are about the Indian culture, so really excited to read that. Next, we have An Ordinary Wonder by Bookie Papalon. That makes me think of the Shaka Khan song that, whether sober or unsober, I mumble through the French part. So it says, an extraordinary literary debut about a Nigerian child's secret desire to live as a girl though raised as a boy, and the courage needed to be yourself. Otto leaves for boarding school as a boy with one plan: excel and escape a cruel home. Falling in love with their roommate was certainly not on the agenda, but fear and shame force her to hide her love and her true self. Back home, weighed down by the expectations of their wealthy and powerful family, the love of Otto's twin sister wavers, and as their world begins to crumble around them, Otto must make drastic choices that will alter the family's lives forever. Richly imagined with art, proverbs, and folk tales, this moving and modern novel follows Otto through life at home and boarding school in Nigeria, through the heartbreak of living as a boy despite their profound belief they are a girl, and through a hunger for freedom that only a new life in the United States can offer. An Ordinary Wonder is a powerful coming-of-age story about a young intersex Nigerian, which explores complex desires as well as the challenges of family, identity, gender, and culture, and what it means to feel whole. I cannot wait to read this. This sounds like The Death of Vivek Oji, and I loved The Death of Vivek Oji. It is a powerful story that needs to be told. Why about this book? Why ain't nobody tell me? Look at how little the font is in this book. Who is reading this? Who? So it's called The Old Drift by Namali Sirpel. 1904, on the banks of the Zambezi River, a few miles from the majestic Victoria Falls, there is a colonial settlement called the Old Drift. In a smoky room at the hotel across the river, an old drifter named Percy M. Clark, foggy with fever, makes a mistake that entangles the fates of an Italian hotelier and an African busboy. This sets off a cycle of unwitting retribution between three Zambian families, black, white, brown, as they collide and converge over the course of a century into the present and beyond. As the generations pass, their lives, their triumphs, errors, losses, and hopes emerge through a panorama of history, fairy tale, romance, and science fiction. From a woman covered with hair and another plagued with endless tears, to forbidden love affairs and fiery political ones, to homegrown technological marvels like Afronauts, microdrones, and viral vaccines, this gripping, unforgettable novel is a testament to our yearning to create and cross borders, and a meditation on the slow grand passage of time. That's why I bought it, because it sounds really interesting. I just didn't know this font was that little. I'm gonna need a magnifying glass. Y'all know my eyes bad. Okay, next we have Next Year in Havana by Chanel Cleaton. There we go. So this says, Havana, 1958. The daughter of a sugar-bearing 19-year-old Eliza Perez is a part of Cuba's high society, where she is largely sheltered from the country's growing political unrest until she embarks on a clandestine affair with a passionate revolutionary. Miami, 2017. Freelance writer Maricel Ferreira grew up hearing romantic stories of Cuba from her late grandmother, Eliza, who was forced to flee with her family during the revolution. Eliza's last wish was for Marisol to scatter her ashes in the country of her birth. Arriving in Havana, Marisol comes face to face with the contrast of Cuba's tropical timeless beauty and its perilous political climate. When more family history comes to light and Marisol finds herself attracted to a man with secrets of his own, she'll need the lessons of her grandmother's past to help her understand the true meaning of courage and what it means to be Cuban. This sounded super good, and I feel like it's going to be along the lines of, what the heck is the name of that book? Oh, The Stationery Shop. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't think of the name of it. Next, we have The Final Case by David Gutterson. This is a mystery of some sort. A girl dies one late rainy night a few feet from the back door of her home. The girl, Abiba, was born in Ethiopia. Her adoptive parents, Delvin and Betsy Harvey, conservative white fundamentalist Christians, are charged with her murder. Royal, a Seattle criminal attorney in the last days of his long career, takes Betsy Harvey's case, an octogenarian without a driver's license. He leans on his son, the novel's narrator, as he prepares for trial. So begins The Final Case, a bracing, astute, and deeply affecting examination of justice and injustice and familial love. David Gutterson's first courtroom drama since Snow Falling on Cedars. It is his most compelling and heartfelt novel to date. Sounded really interesting. I want to read more like mystery thriller type situations, so we shall see. And I've never read anything by this author before, so we'll see how that goes, if I like it, if I don't like it. First edition. Like, are my eyes bad, or does this not tell me? Whatever. Okay, next we have something that everybody was raving about, and another super long book. It's like 800 pages. Because, show me. What are you talking about? A Little Life by, is it Hannah Yanagihara? I tried. A Little Life follows four college classmates broke adrift and buoyed only by their friendship and ambition as they move to New York City in search of fame and fortune. While their relationships, which are tinged by addiction, success, and pride, deepen over the decades, the men are held together by their unspeakable childhood trauma. Oh no, by their devotion to brilliant, enigmatic Jude. a man scarred by an unspeakable childhood trauma, a hymn to brotherly bonds, and a masterful depiction of love in the 21st century. Hannah Yanagihara's stunning novel is about the families we aren't born into and those that we make for ourselves. I've heard that this book has made everybody cry, and I kind of just wanted to test the theory, so I'll read it eventually. But it sounded really good. And then last but not least, we have Wahala by Nikki May. So this was described as the most unforgettable girl since Carrie, Samantha, Charlotte, and Miranda. And honestly, if you've watched some of the reboot, you know that it is in fact trash. So we need replacements. So Ronki wants happily ever after and the 2.5 kids. She's dating Coyote and wants him to be the one, perfect like her dead father. Her friends think he's just another in a long line of dodgy Nigerian boyfriends. Boo has everything Ronki wants, kind husband, gorgeous child, but she's frustrated, unfulfilled, plagued by guilt, and desperate to remember who she used to be. Simi is the golden one with the perfect lifestyle. No one knows she's crippled by imposter syndrome and tempted to pack it all in each time her boss mentions her urban vibe. Her husband thinks they're trying for a baby. She's not. When the high-flying, charismatic Isabel explodes into the group, it seems at first she's bringing out the best in each woman. She gets Simi an interview in Shanghai, goes jogging with Boo, but the more Isabel intervenes, the more chaos she sows, and Rocky, Simi, and Boo's close friendship begins to crack. A sharp modern take on friendship, ambition, culture, and betrayal, Wahala Trouble is an unforgettable novel from a brilliant new voice. Sounded super good. I had to have it. And you know, I'm gonna buy a book by a black woman every time. I mean, a black person in general, every time. I'm gonna do it. So yeah, that is my book haul. The very first one of the year. I'm going to try and slow down on my book buying. But that's probably a lie. So I tried. I did. If you've gotten any books recently, tell me what books you've got. If you have any recommendations, because that is the only thing that I like unsolicited advice about, let me know that as well. And I will talk to you in my next video. If no one has told you today, I love you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.